Welcome to Blue Glasses Math. In this podcast, we will explore how our self-perception as math teachers and learners influences our approach to life. Whether you identify as a math enthusiast or not, this podcast is for you. Are you a teacher, a parent, a school administrator, or a student? Join me as we shift our perspective on what it means to be a math person. Let's take a look. Welcome, William Polan. Thank you so much for joining me on Blue Glasses Math here on the podcast. And you're coming to us all the way from the other side of the world. So I record in New Jersey, but you are recording from Thailand?
Thailand, that's right. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
No problem. Yeah, I'm super excited for this conversation because as I explained in the intro, I bring people to this podcast because I want to help to elevate the idea of giving students and teachers the opportunity to see themselves as math people and really start to believe in themselves as math people. And the reason why I connected with you is because I think I saw you post, maybe it was a video on LinkedIn, and it was you standing in front of this incredible wall of mathematics ideas. And I'm like, what is this? So I leaned in and thought, okay. And so I just sent you a DM on LinkedIn, and I think this is going to be a great conversation. What I want to hear, and I think our audience wants to hear, is how do you get students to see themselves as math people? And we can get to that question in a moment. But first, I would start off with, what is your math story, William?
Yeah. Okay. So from the lens of an educator, I'd say my math story begins about 15 years ago. I started teaching at an international school, and sort of over the next 15 years, I worked at 4 different schools, all in which really we're trying to adopt and bring in this inquiry-based pedagogy and different frameworks. I held different roles. I was a primary years program coordinator for International Baccalaureate. I was a curriculum coach. I was a director of studies. I was a 5th grade teacher for many, many years. And as we would bring in this pedagogy and this approach to teaching and learning that was so rich with inquiry, we always got to this really pesky subject of math. And everyone, math. Right, the administrators and I mean, even the community at large was like, math is a standalone subject, and we can't teach math the same way that we might teach other subjects through inquiry. And so that's been sort of the thread that has connected my professional journey in all these different schools was you can teach math through the lens of inquiry. And that's been sort of my passion. And as you said, I've been starting to be a little bit more out with posting videos and on LinkedIn or Instagram or even the website that I started to try to bring some life to that and sort of remove the obstacles that people see as math not being a subject that we can have the sort of this pedagogy of inquiry in.
And what inspired you to go that route? Like, what inspired you to be sort of the rebel rouser in the community to say, no, we can bring this inquiry-based thinking into math class and everything else?
Yeah, I mean, when you see the benefits of inquiry in a literacy classroom or a science classroom, where students have all this agency and they're empowered to learn, they're asking questions, they're self-directed. You see how great it is. And then you shift into that math classroom and it's like, it's literally the color is gone, right? You go from like messy paint and experiments and students with questions and hands up and collaboration. And then you kind of go into that math classroom and it's gray, right? And a little bit more subdued. And so I was really passionate about bringing that color into the math classroom.
I love it. I love the way you described the imagery there, because you're right. It is, and people see it as, I mean, I've heard people say math is black or white, right? It's right or wrong. And really what that does is it makes people feel like there's either math people or there's not math people. And I fit into one of those 2 categories. And it's up to people like you who can bring in the color and help students have that agency and be empowered to be self-directed. I love that. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Um, let's dig in, because some people might be listening to this podcast and be like, what does it mean to be inquiry based? What can we unpack that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, I like to think about it in my math class, right? How can I ignite this process of learning without prescribing a product?
Mm.
And so effectively what that means and what that looks like is how can I get my students really enthusiastic and tap into their intrinsic motivations to learn
Mhm.
without telling them what to do. And I think the Instagram or LinkedIn thing that you commented on were these visual provocations that I was using in a math class.
Yes.
And right. And so effectively what those showed were these real scenes in which certain objects were way disproportionate. And so I have the students start sort of scaffolding their thinking, saying, well, what's wrong with these images?
Mm.
And then can you give some sort of estimation as how big they are compared to what they should be, et cetera? And then propose this idea of like, what's the math that we need to fix this? And what math vocabulary lives here?
Okay, wait,
And then,
stop there. Wait. When you said, what is the math that we need to fix this? Like, what is
yeah,
the math that we need to fix this? That's
yeah.
okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
And so it's great. And they, I've a class of great mathematical thinkers. Everyone does, right? And they start saying, oh, we need division, right? We need measurement. And then we get into this idea of scaling, which brings in so many authentic opportunities for students to learn ratio, multiplying the scaling numbers up and down through multiplication and division. You're looking at place value in a really unique way. And so I've ignited this process of learning and I have not given them anything to do.
Mm.
Right? They're intrinsically motivated to like, okay, wait, how can we do this? Should I try to fix this picture? Should I draw something to scale to show my understanding of this? How do you draw at scale? Right? And so the absolute best part of an inquiry math classroom is what I just said. The students raise their hand and they ask you to guide their learning.
Mm.
And so the paradigm of my job is not to impart knowledge to you, it's to help you on your sort of self-directed inquiry into this.
Mm.
And in the relationship, right? Then what does the relationship look like? It's a really dynamic one.
The relationship between you and the kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then, I mean, what I also think inquiry does exceptionally well is, I guess I should preface this by saying Joe Bowler's book on Limitless Mind, right, talks a lot about our curricula being a mile long and an inch deep, right? We have so many of these fleeting standards and sort of this desire in some schools to, okay, you can do this one particular skill. Now I'm going to go move you to the next grade and the next grade and the next grade. But what the inquiry math classroom does so well is all of these students can access this, but they will find this level of rigor that's appropriate for them.
Mm.
So this idea that these students in my current class are working on scaling different scenes. I have some students that are just using a scale factor of, let's say, 100,
Mm-hmm.
which is, a fairly easy division problem, but it is what they can do and it is a skill that they need to learn. But then I have a handful of students that know that. And this particular student, he's scaling galaxies. His scale is a centimeter to 250,000 light years,
Oh my God. I
right?
can't even understand what that means.
To be honest, right? But this idea, though, is really powerful. That is, we can all work within this concept
Yeah.
and find the rigor that is appropriate for us
Yeah.
and is sort of rewarding in the process.
So I had a conversation I've had lots of conversations, but the conversation that's coming to mind is with Mike Flynn and Zach Champagne. And Mike in that conversation said, I've learned more about math from 7-year-olds. I'm going to misquote exactly what he said, but something like more than I could care to admit, right? Like, as he taught,
Hmm.
he taught second grade for, I think, for a while. And so he said, 7-year-olds come up with, so anyway, what grade do you teach, by the way? I didn't even
It's
ask you
fifth
that.
grade.
Fifth grade. Okay.
Fifth.
So fifth grade.
Uh-huh.
So perfect. So these kids are like right on that cusp of getting to the point where like math is for me or math is not for, I mean, I remember my own experience in getting into middle school is like,
Hmm.
I was really good at memorizing stuff when I was in first, second, third grade. But then once I got to middle school,
Hmm.
it was like, wait a minute, I have to reason and make sense of things. And
Hmm.
so your students are right on that cusp of where that might happen. And
Hmm.
yeah, that's amazing. The light years blew me away.
Yeah, I mean, I just love this idea that like I think oftentimes we don't give kids enough credit for how they can be stewards of their own learning. And, I think when given the opportunity to see kids learn in a self-directed way, I'm always amazed.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's always a powerful thing. And it's always a great way for me to sort of view my relationship with students.
Mm. Yeah. And my son is a junior in high school and he just came home yesterday from his first day of school. And it was remarkable to hear his commentary on how his first day of junior year went. He really didn't talk about the subjects. I mean, it's only the first day. They might not have gotten into content too much yet.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they, maybe they didn't. I don't know. Point is, he commented on like how he connected with the teachers. He didn't say it that way. He said, well, with this teacher, he's a real guy. He's a real guy, or like whatever his language was. And I thought, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is bigger. And to your point of how inquiry math gives us or gives you the opportunity to develop those relationships with the kids is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a homeroom teacher as well, like uh, Chad Littlewick, I think, has
Yeah.
this idea of connection before content, right? And for any meaningful learning to happen in a classroom, that connection and relationship with the teacher is paramount.
Yeah, and let's dig into that for a minute because I do think like the connection before content is something that administrators around the world are starting to like get the idea of, but also I also wonder, it sounds like with yours, it's I'm sorry, connection through the content,
Wow.
right? So
Yeah,
like
that's interesting.
you're not coming in and saying, okay, boys and girls, today we're going to do a game where you have to, I don't know. I've done this before where it's like you find someone who, and they have to go around and like, it's like a hunt and they have to ask each other questions about,
Yeah.
I don't know, their favorite color or whatever. It's like those types of connection activities, I think can sometimes be very artificial for kids. And I think they've gotten to the point where like, oh my gosh, another icebreaker, just like we do in professional development. Like, oh my gosh.
I'm
But
sort of at a loss of words with that idea of connection through content. I think that's a really interesting way to look at that and how we can cultivate meaningful connections with students by the way that we approach what and how we teach them.
yeah, because I'm a fifth grader, or sixth grader, or whatever grade. I'm stepping into a math class. Okay. Or the bell has rung and now we switched over from literacy to math class. And now what's the expectation? And so it's like, how am I connecting with the teacher through this content? How am I connecting with this content and the teacher? The whole relationship piece is so interesting to me because I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what I am starting to wonder if the reason why students shy away from math, and I'm making a huge generalization, but we know it's out there. Sometimes I wonder if it's the way what the way we interact with the students.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that this teacher in this class, like what you said in the beginning, like nope, you can't do that in math. And
Right.
we've like stripped the humanness away from doing math, right?
Yeah.
To the point where kids are like, it's not for me. I wonder.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I could plug a few of my favorite books and authors,
Please.
right? I mean, There's been a couple of times where I've read something and I've just, in its right place, right time almost, but also
Mm-hmm.
really profound, which one is Trevor McKinsey's book, Inquiry Mindset Assessment Edition. And the book effectively breaks down how we view assessment and how we bring student voice into assessment. And I think that kind of really touches on the notion of this connection through content. I'm affording you opportunities to have input on sort of what you're going to do and how we're going to assess it together. And then Joseph Asoff has a book called Whose Math Is It?
Ooh.
And he has a diagram in there that I've taken a picture of, I've enlarged it, and it's on my desk in my classroom, because he shows sort of this traditional classroom as a pyramid, a math classroom that is. And, you know, it's a three-part pyramid, three-tiered pyramid. And the bottom is sort of that skills and procedural fluency. And then the top, this very small triangle at the top, is that application. Right. And I think an unfortunate reality for me, and I think and a lot of other math learners, whenever they learned math or whenever they were in school, was that you were only rewarded with the fun application and contextual math if you were able to do sort of the laborious procedural fluency stuff, the skill stuff, memorize the steps, etc. And he sort of provides this alternative, which is alongside this pyramid congruently is applying. Right. So from day one, students have a bit of agency over understanding and being a part of, I'm learning this math because, and this is
Mm-hmm.
applicable to me because.
Yeah.
And I think those two things are really important to think about in terms of relationships, in terms of fixed mindsets in math, especially.
Yeah. 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 I think the that idea of giving students like a say in the matter is going to be a game changer. It will is a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more. Let's dig a little more into specifics. So when you walk into your fifth grade classroom, the
Mm-hmm.
students, like, what happens in an inquiry math classroom? Like, I'm a
Okay.
teacher listening to this, be
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, and I can do this every third Friday or the day before vacation.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
are you
really
doing
funny you
this every
say.
day? Is this something that happens just, okay.
Because okay, so I've totally ignited this process of learning without prescribing a product, and I've got 25 kids that are so enthusiastic about, applying their mathematical thinking to something, but not necessarily having the skills to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I love the question, because that's the most common question is, well, how do you do this? And so I've actually just finished the part of my book about this, and I break down the strategies that I tried using and the outcomes. One strategy would be to just completely front load the skills and procedures, right? Make sure all of my students completely know them, and then allow them to sort of apply that in the way that they care
Okay.
about.
Mm-hmm.
The outcome there was dwindling student interest,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I'm going to get you so excited about something and say, for the next week, we're really going to drill, right? There's less learner agency. And then unfortunately, in that sort of strategy, there's too much teacher directed learning,
Yeah.
right? So I could allow students, another strategy, which I've tried, allow students to uncover the skills that they need for this inquiry. And this classroom is chickens with their heads cut off running around, and I'm trying to teach these skills in 30 seconds, and kids are pulling my shirt, and kids are frustrated. I am just exhausted, right? It's not this whimsical type of messy. It is this like chaotic type of messy.
Yes. Yes.
This other idea of, I could mark students and give them feedback when I see mistakes as they go along, which for me would often be after hours,
Mm-hmm.
and it would often be depressing.
Yeah.
Like, why I didn't give them the skills they needed, and now I have to tell them that they've done
Yes.
something wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Discourage students, less willingness to pursue learning. So 15 years of all of that, I've sort of adapted this model of, I've ignited this process. We're all really excited. And I'm going to start lessons with these short mini labs that's connected to the class's inquiry. Not unlike you would see a number talk in which we share different strategies, we communicate, we can collaborate, but we work towards sort of one question. That provides the structure that also gives them a bit of an example to use as a springboard when they go off on their own.
Got it.
And it affords them an opportunity to really be self-directed in their learning. The outcome there, they're confident, they're equipped. I'm less exhausted, right? And I'm more fulfilled as the teacher. So that was a very long way of saying these very short mini labs is what I've sort of adopted. Sometimes they can last 30 minutes. Sometimes the kids get really enthusiastic and as a class we come together. Sometimes they're 15 or 20 minutes, but not unlike a number talk where we have a problem on the board connected to what we're trying to learn and the skills we need. And then we share and we look at the different strategies and we kind of break it down. And if I'm doing a 2-week inquiry into something, maybe I only need 3 or 4 of those.
Got it.
Right. And then the next week or week and a half, they feel equipped and they feel ready and I can support as needed.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing like your whole process of how you came to it, because I do feel like sometimes teachers think, okay, I have to open this book and I've got to go right immediately and get it right. And I also love what you said in there about your own exhaustion, or what is it that you want as a teacher. And I think this is another piece that I haven't really dug into too deeply in these conversations, but especially in the United States, we have this whole issue with teacher attrition, and it's because teachers get burnt out, right? And it's like, well, how can we still do what we need to do and not burn ourselves out? And so I love that you paid attention to that, because you're in this profession because you want to fulfill, right? You're not here to make $1 million and get stock options. I mean, let's be real, right?
Sure.
But you're here because you love the craft. You want to help students and now teachers as in your math coach role. How did the teachers that you coach, like, does it take a little while for teachers to come on board with this, or like, I'm just curious what your process is to getting students,
So
teachers on
I
board.
mean, in terms of instructional coaching, I've been in my current role for about a month,
Okay.
right?
You can't, yeah. Okay.
I can't speak to how well that's sort of been taken to,
Yeah.
but in my previous roles, right? What I think is sort of this best practice is to view math teaching and learning through one of these like 3 steps, like you would see in Singapore math. Singapore math would be sort of the abstract, the pictorial, or the concrete, the pictorial, the abstract. Or you would see with the primary years program for international baccalaureate, it's constructing meaning, transferring that meaning into symbols, and then applying with understanding. So shifting a mindset of math being concepts always come first, right? And whatever concept that may be, we need to get students really excited about. And then we need to sort of move them down this spectrum of building familiarity with the formal side of the math, and then always affording them the opportunity to apply that and contextualize that in a way that matters to them.
Yeah.
I actually read something a couple of days ago about, I think it was 2010, Common Core came in and like cut all these standards in half, right? We had just gotten so obsessed with these fleeting standards that we had sort of removed context, concepts, etc. And it's really good to see that we're re-emphasizing that.
Yeah.
I think that really speaks to confidence too, right? Like, Carol Dweck and Joe Bowler are these champions of like growth mindsets. And I think growth mindset is such an important sort of aptitude to have. But the problem is, if we just ask students to have a growth mindset and we don't cultivate the conditions for them to be confident and to build in perseverance, etc.,
Yeah.
it's not going to stick, right?
Totally. It's about cultivating those conditions, which it sounds like you are doing an incredible job in your school and with your fifth graders and with the teachers that you coach. And
Mhm.
yeah, I love it. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up this conversation, even though I could talk to you all day. And I know that you have a book in the works. So when this podcast the episode, I'm gonna re replay it again later on in the year. So if you want to listen to it again, it'll come out again. But my question I was going to ask you is, two things. Okay, so what advice would you give to a teacher who was curious about starting an inquiry-based math class and doing inquiry math, but might have a little trepidation about
Mhm.
where to begin?
Sure. I mean, I guess I would just say you can have your cake and eat it too.
Ah,
You can have a class of intrinsically motivated learners who love math and also equip them with the skills they need to sort of vertically move up throughout school. And I think I don't say that from a philosophical
yeah,
viewpoint. I
yeah.
say it because I do it every day. And I just hope that people sort of take that to heart and give it a try.
Love it. Yeah, and I thank you for adding that in, that it's not this philosophical, like, built in a lab type of
Mm-hmm.
idea, right? This is based on your actual boots on the ground, in the moment research and
Yeah.
trying different things, and the word is not coming to me, but you kind of like you're crafting it, you're continuing to adjust, and that
Mm-hmm.
in itself speaks volumes to what I think teachers also need to remind themselves that they don't have to know all the answers. They don't need to be
Ab-
the keeper of the king of the keys.
no, absolutely not. Yeah. I mean, I think, I just have so much happiness in math classes when I see learners that are engaged and empowered. And a little bit to we spoke about earlier, which is like I am able to have a relationship with my students that is really meaningful through
Yeah,
that.
that's awesome. Okay, last question. What gives you hope in the math education space?
Yeah. Um, I mean, there's been so many great shifts in understanding of math teaching and learning over the last 10 years. There's some amazing thought leaders that continue to like really push what is right in math teaching and learning forward, like from building thinking classrooms, Peter Lilajal,
Yes.
right? Joe Bowler, right? Joseph Asoff and San Giovanni, all of these amazing thought leaders continue to sort of propel the space forward. And I think that's really gives me a lot of hope.
Thank you so much. Again, I could talk to you all day. Where can people find out more about inquiry maths and connect with you, William?
Yeah, I'm a father of two. I have a 4 year old and a 2 year old.
God
So
bless.
I don't have a ton of free time, but I do update my Instagram almost, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a week. And that's the underscore math underscore inquirer. Or I have a website that I don't update as regularly, which is inquirymath.com.
All right, William. So your visual provocations. I want to dig into this
Sure.
because when I went to your website, which is inquirymath.com, it's INQUIRY
Mm-hmm.
math.com. Oh, I have that? Okay, so I'm looking at it right now, and the screen is scrolling by, and there's that vegetable that looks like a cauliflower, but a piece of broccoli, but it's a fractal. I forget what that's
Sure.
called. Kohlrabi? No, it's not kohlrabi. I've eaten it
Mm-hmm.
before. It's delicious. Okay. Anyway,
Oh,
tell
right.
me about
Yeah.
this. Tell me
Uh-huh.
about these visual provocations.
Yeah, I mean, so there's so many different types of provocations, right? I mean, a good provocation could be an opinion-based statement. It could be a question. It could be blueprints from your school, right?
Hmm.
What I've put on the website are some visual provocations that I've asked different AI generators to make for me. The reason that I put those up is I think they do an amazing job of providing a very abstract interpretation of whatever math concept that I want.
Mm.
And I think when students are kind of forced to look at something that's quite abstract, then we get to really see some great mathematical thinking. And so those provocations are on there. I haven't used all of them, but a few, and there's a lot more that I need to upload. Truthfully, I'm quite busy with the kiddos and the job and everything, but as I get time, I will continue to add. And then I need to put other provocations on that website, right? What are all these different questions that we could pose to students that get them to really think deeply? I taught at an international school in Mongolia,
Mm.
coldest capital city in the world.
Really?
It is -40, -25 to 40 for
Oh
a
my
very long time, 6 months probably. And I posed a question to students that was, should Mongolia have its own unit of measurement for temperature?
God. Ooh, that's provocative.
And the class and the authentic opportunities to look at negative numbers on a number line and all of these great sort of converting of units, etc. All of these great math standards just really work their way into a very simple sort of question that every student can approach from
Mm.
whichever way they want. I think a really good provocation through the lens of equity gives every student a voice. There is no
Yes.
right answer to a provocation, right? We're affording mathematical thinking to everyone in the classroom um, before the mathematics comes in. And I think, when we
Mm.
talk about mindsets, and a lot of my thinking at the moment is that we have way too many sort of performance oriented skills that
Yes.
work their way into collaborative groups where we then really get this dynamic of doer watcher
Yes.
and a
Yes.
very imbalance of mindsets there, which is I'm the
Yeah.
good math kid and I'm not the good math kid because the teacher's given me some sort of performance based skill or performance oriented skill where the person that gets it fast, the fastest, and correct is the best, and
Yeah.
everybody else sorts of what. So these provocations from the outset of learning, say, as Joe Bowler would say, like mathematical diversity,
Yes.
right? Everybody brings this unique perspective to the math that they can connect or contextualize to, and the opinion, right? Because
Yeah.
these are often really about opinion. So that's another great thing about provocations.
And just, there's so many, there's a book, one of my favorite books, is called Math for Human Flourishing. It's by Francis Sue.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would dig it. I don't know if you've read it before, but oh, and he talks in there about how we become human by doing math, but not the type of math that we have been doing in 40
Yeah,
problems. And then you maybe get to the word problems. And like,
yeah,
yeah. And so all of that, what you're talking about is that diversity of thinking is giving students a platform. Math gives students a platform, can give students a
mm-hmm.
platform for understanding that people have different opinions, and that's okay. And sometimes our different opinions can come together and create incredible solutions. And that's what
That's
it's,
that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, Keith Devlin has like the best math quote ever, which is like we teach far too much bricklaying and not enough architecture.
yeah, totally.
Like we're just asking kids to lay bricks, and then when they get to what kind of historically is like algebra 1 in high school, we ask them to be architects and they go,
Yeah, right.
I
Like,
just
I
know
don't,
how to lay bricks. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I haven't, and it's really interesting to think about it through that lens.
That's incredible. Okay, so in the if you're watching this on YouTube, I am going to put the you'll see the images on here because and the whole website, but these provocations are really cool, especially using AI. And we talk about not using don't use AI in math class, right? My son used AI
Mm-hmm.
last night on his homework, believe it or not, but he
Sure.
used it in an interesting way. He used it in a way because he wasn't, ironically, understanding how I was explaining it to him because I'm his mom and he just wasn't hearing the words that were coming
Yeah.
out of my mouth.
Yeah.
That's all. That'll happen. You'll get to experience that as your kids get a little older.
Sure.
He used AI to explain it to him, explain that it was a systems of equations problem. And when I tell you, William, it was the exact same words. It was the exact same for some reason. And I
That's
told him, I
funny.
said, you can use AI as long as you're using it to help you understand the problem. And so it's like,
Hmm.
how can we use AI in these math classrooms to make the math more understandable, but also to come up with mathematical ideas? So this is really cool.
But
But
not to use AI as a hamster wheel of sort of worksheet generator,
yes,
right?
yes,
That's sort of like I get a little bit heartbroken when I see some of those applications.
yeah,
But
yep,
there are many great use cases for it. Absolutely.
for sure, for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much, William, for being
Thank
here on
you. That
the
was great.
conversation. I appreciate it. And I will direct everybody to your correct links. And we look forward to seeing your book on shelves when it's ready.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Pam.
Yeah. Take care.
All right. You too.
I'm Pam Brett. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Blue Glasses Math. Please follow me wherever you get your podcasts and follow along on the conversation on Instagram. And remember, being a math person is all just a matter of perspective.